The Galactic Hegemony's Grand Assembly Hall embodied everything pretentious about interstellar politics. Floating platforms of polished quantum crystal housed representatives from 1,000 worlds, each trying to outshine the others with increasingly elaborate environmental bubbles and containment fields. High above, the artificial sun cast rainbow refractions through the crystalline dome, a display that cost more than the GDP of several developing worlds. Lieutenant Commander Avery Rhodes watched it all through the compound eyes of her bioengineered disguise. To the assembly, she appeared as nothing more than a junior aide to the Centaurian trade delegation, another forgettable insectoid species in the vast menagerie of galactic civilization. Her true mission, however, was to confirm what Earth's intelligence services had long suspected: the hegemony was planning humanity's subjugation. These humans, Supreme Arbiter Ziwextal announced, his vaporous form swirling with barely contained disdain, have expanded beyond acceptable parameters. Their 17 colonies violate standing territorial agreements. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. Rhodes noted how the various species expressed consensus, from the crystalline chimes of the Lemurii to the subsonic rumbles of the gas giant-dwelling Jovians. Each sound carefully calibrated to demonstrate their sophistication while masking their fear. Might I remind the assembly, Ambassador Thrix of the Mercantile Leagues rose on his anti-gravity platform, that human expansion has followed all official protocols? They've filed the proper permits, paid the required fees. Yes, interrupted Counselor Nyx of the Elder Worlds, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with irritation. They're very good at following rules. Like children completing homework. But their technological level is barely Category 3. They still use fusion drives and projectile weapons, for void's sake. More laughter, more carefully orchestrated shows of superiority. Rhodes fought to keep her mandibles still, maintaining her cover as the obedient aide. If they only knew about the quantum phase drives being tested in the Kuiper Belt, or the dark matter cannons hidden in those primitive mining installations. I've analyzed their military capabilities personally, declared War Master Kolak, his cybernetic implants gleaming. Their largest ships would barely qualify as escort vessels in our fleets. Their weapons are crude. Their shields are basic particle screens. They pose no threat. Rhodes remembered the classified footage from last week's war games. The new Phantom-class dreadnoughts, their metamaterial hulls bending light and space itself. The quantum-entangled weapon systems that could strike simultaneously across light years. All carefully hidden behind a facade of outdated technology and seemingly inefficient designs. Nevertheless, Ziwextal's vapor form condensed slightly, indicating serious intent. Their rate of expansion cannot continue. The human species lacks the proper perspective to join galactic civilization as equals. I propose a containment action. There it was. The confirmation Earth's intelligence services had been waiting for. Rhodes activated the quantum-encrypted transmitter embedded in her synthetic nervous system, sending the signal that would set humanity's counterplans in motion. The motion is before the assembly, Ziwextal continued. We will deploy containment fleets to their outer colonies. Restrict their expansion. Guide their development along more appropriate lines. The vote was a formality. Out of 3,000 representatives, only a handful abstained. None opposed. Rhodes watched as the assembly congratulated itself on its wisdom and foresight, even as they signed their own political death warrant. As she left the chamber, maintaining her cover as the humble aide, Rhodes couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The hegemony's greatest weakness was its absolute certainty in its own superiority. They couldn't imagine that humanity had spent the last 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. In a secure compartment on her ship, Rhodes shed her bioengineered disguise. The process was uncomfortable, but less so than watching the hegemony's casual dismissal of her species. She encrypted her report and sent it through the quantum network to Earth Command, adding her personal recommendation: Operation Shadow Forge is confirmed. They took the bait. Recommend immediate implementation of Phase 2. The response came back almost instantly, understanding confirmed. Phase 2 authorized. The gloves come off in 72 hours. Well done, Commander. Come home. As her ship broke orbit, accelerating on its supposedly primitive fusion drives, Rhodes smiled. The hegemony's containment fleet would arrive at the outer colonies expecting to find helpless human settlements. Instead, they would encounter the largest ambush in military history. The next few weeks would reshape the galaxy. And not one being in that grand assembly hall had the slightest idea it was coming. The mining installation on Europa 7 looked utterly unremarkable from the outside. Surplus equipment from Earth's early space age cluttered the landing pads. Outdated solar arrays stretched across the ice fields. Everything about it screamed primitive human operation to any passing hegemony patrol. Fleet Captain Raven Blackwood stood in the facility's true command center, 3 kilometers beneath the ice. Holographic displays showed the status of 200 similar installations across human space, each one a carefully crafted deception concealing military power that would make the hegemony's warmasters choke on their own arrogance. "Status report," she commanded, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of tactical displays. "Shadow Fleet is at full readiness," her XO, Commander Jean Park, reported. "All Phantom-class vessels report optimal stealth field coherence. Quantum weapon systems are primed and synchronized. The hegemony's containment fleet will arrive in 36 hours. Blackwood nodded, studying the massive holographic star map. Red icons showed the approaching hegemony forces, exactly as their intelligence had predicted. Blue markers indicated human colonies that were about to mysteriously disappear, evacuated months ago in preparation for this moment. 50 years of deception, she mused. Everything we built, everything we designed, all to prepare for their inevitable attempt to put humanity in its place. The facility's quantum computers projected the coming battle scenarios. Humanity's true fleet had been hidden in plain sight for decades. Those mining ships, with their supposedly inefficient engines, were actually stealth vessels capable of bending spacetime. The waste heat from their operations had masked the testing of weapons that the hegemony thought impossible for a Category 3 civilization. "Message from Earth Command," Park announced. "Operation Shadow Forge is accelerating." The hegemony pushed up their timetable. "They're launching simultaneous strikes against all outer colonies." Blackwood allowed herself a predatory smile. "Eager to put us in our place, aren't they? Signal all fleet elements. Initiate Phase 2 ahead of schedule." Across human space, the greatest military deception in history began to unfold. On 100 worlds, obsolete facilities transformed. Quantum fields shifted, revealing their true nature. Mining installations became fortress cities. Cargo vessels shed their primitive disguises, revealing warships that represented the pinnacle of human military science. In the Europa 7 Command Center, Blackwood watched the transformation with fierce pride. "Status of the evacuation protocols?" "Complete," Park confirmed. "All civilian populations were relocated to the inner systems weeks ago. The hegemony will find nothing but automated responses and empty buildings." "And the Phantom fleets?" "In position. The null space capacitors are charged. Metamaterial camouflage is functioning perfectly. We can maintain total invisibility for up to 72 hours. The tactical displays showed the approaching hegemony containment fleet. Their ships were impressive by conventional standards, massive dreadnoughts and cruisers powered by zero-point reactors, protected by graviton shields. They represented the finest military technology of 1,000 worlds. And they were about to learn just how badly they had underestimated humanity. "They're launching their first strikes," Park reported. "Hegemony vessels are entering orbit around New Eden and Proxima Colony." "Right on schedule," Blackwood nodded. "Signal all fleet elements." Maintain stealth protocols until they fully commit their forces. Let them think they're dealing with helpless colonies. The next few hours were tense but controlled. The command center staff watched as hegemony ships positioned themselves around supposedly primitive human settlements. Their sensors would be detecting exactly what humanity had wanted them to see for 50 years: basic shield technology, fusion power, and minimal defenses. They're broadcasting their demands, Park announced. Standard containment protocols. Demanding immediate surrender and submission to hegemony authority. Send the automated responses we prepared. Make them think our colonies are panicking, trying to negotiate. Blackwood's voice was cold with controlled anger. Let them feel superior for a few more hours. The deception played out exactly as planned. The hegemony forces, confident in their overwhelming superiority, began deploying their containment fields, massive energy barriers designed to isolate and control entire planets. All hegemony strike groups are now committed, Park reported. Their containment fields are at full power. They've deployed their reserves. Blackwood straightened, her voice carrying the weight of 50 years of preparation. Signal all Phantom Fleet elements. Disengage stealth protocols. Execute Operation Shadow Forge. Across human space, reality itself seemed to twist. The metamaterial hulls of humanity's true warships phased into normal space. Where the hegemony had expected to find helpless colonies, they suddenly faced the most advanced fleet ever created. Send the general broadcast, Blackwood ordered. Let's show them exactly who they're dealing with. As the Phantom fleets revealed themselves, humanity's message was transmitted to every hegemony vessel in a dozen star systems. The time for deception was over. The real war was about to begin. Warmaster Kolak's flagship shuddered as another impossible weapon strike bypassed their shields completely. Around him, the bridge crew's cybernetic implants sparked with confusion as they tried to process what their sensors were telling them. Impossible, he snarled, his mechanical eye whirring as it attempted to track the human vessels that seemed to fade in and out of reality itself. Their technology level was verified. Multiple surveys confirmed. Multiple surveys saw exactly what we wanted them to see, a calm voice cut through their communications. On the main view screen, Captain Raven Blackwood's image appeared, her expression one of cold satisfaction. Did you really think humanity would advertise its true capabilities to a galaxy that clearly intended to contain us? The Warmaster's flagship rocked again as quantum-phased energy beams struck from multiple vectors simultaneously. Their advanced shields, designed to stop any known weapon, might as well have been tissue paper. All containment fleets reporting critical situations, his tactical officer announced, trying to keep the panic from his synthetic voice. The human vessels are using some form of space-folding technology. They're attacking from positions that shouldn't be possible. Across the battlefield, humanity's Phantom fleet demonstrated just how thoroughly the hegemony had misread the situation. Ships equipped with metamaterial hulls phased through solid matter, appearing inside the hegemony's formation. Quantum-locked weapon systems fired from multiple points in spacetime simultaneously, overwhelming even the most sophisticated defensive systems. In the Europa 7 Command Center, Blackwood watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Status of the hegemony forces? Their formations are breaking apart, Commander Park reported. Their shield technology can't adapt to our quantum phase weapons. Estimates suggest they've lost 30% of their combat effectiveness in the first 10 minutes of engagement. And our losses? Minimal. The metamaterial hulls are performing above expectations. Their conventional weapons can't maintain a target lock on our vessels. The battle continued to unfold across human space. The hegemony's containment fleet, which had arrived expecting to find primitive colonies cowering behind basic defenses, instead found themselves facing an enemy that had spent half a century preparing for this exact moment. Message from the Warmaster's flagship, Park announced. They're requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms. Blackwood's expression hardened. Put him through. Kolak's image appeared, his cybernetic components showing visible damage. Captain Blackwood. Perhaps we can discuss this situation like civilized beings. Civilized beings? Blackwood's voice dripped with contempt. Like how you civilized beings gathered in your grand assembly to decide our fate without even consulting us. Or how you civilized beings plan to contain and control our species. We were concerned about the rate of your expansion. You were concerned about your own power. Blackwood cut him off. Humanity spent 50 years watching the hegemony suppress and control emerging civilizations. We knew exactly what awaited us if we revealed our true capabilities too soon. On the tactical displays, more hegemony ships were surrendering. Their mighty containment fleet, pride of 1,000 worlds, had been thoroughly outmaneuvered and outfought by an enemy they had fatally underestimated. Signal from Earth Command, Park reported. Operation Shadow Forge Phase 3 is authorized. We're to proceed with the liberation of the suppressed worlds. Blackwood nodded, turning back to the Warmaster's image. Here are our terms. The hegemony will immediately withdraw all forces from human space. You will release all containment protocols on developing civilizations. A new Galactic Council will be formed, one where technological advancement isn't used as an excuse for oppression. You're in no position to make such demands, Kolak began, but another series of quantum strikes silenced him. Look at your tactical displays, Warmaster. Blackwood's voice was ice. Your containment fleet is in ruins. Your supposedly superior technology has been thoroughly defeated. And this? She gestured at the devastating scene around them. This was just our opening move. The tactical displays showed more Phantom Fleet elements revealing themselves. Hundreds of ships that had hidden beneath the cover of primitive technology were now demonstrating power that the hegemony had thought impossible for centuries to come. Commander Park, send the signal to all fleet elements, Blackwood ordered. Begin Phase 3. Show them exactly what humanity has been working on for the past 50 years. As new weapons and technologies came online across human space, the message became clear to the hegemony and all watching species: the age of suppression was over. Humanity hadn't just prepared for this war, they had revolutionized warfare itself. The galaxy was about to change, and the species that had dismissed humans as primitive would learn just how costly their arrogance had become. The Supreme Council chamber of the galactic hegemony had lost its grandeur. The floating platforms looked tarnished, the quantum crystal walls dulled. Even the artificial sun seemed dimmer, as if reflecting the mood of its creators. First speaker Nixus, representing the combined Elder Worlds, watched in stunned silence as reports continued to flood in. Not just from the failed containment action against humanity, but from across hegemony space. Every suppressed civilization, every controlled world, was now receiving advanced technology from human phantom fleets. They're dismantling our entire power structure, Minister Vax observed, his energy form flickering with distress. These humans, they're not just defeating us militarily. They're rewriting the fundamental order of galactic society. In human space, Captain Blackwood's Phantom Fleet had commenced Phase 3 of Operation Shadow Forge. But this phase wasn't about military victory, it was about reshaping the galaxy. Status report on the Liberation Initiative, she commanded from the Europa 7 Command Center. Commander Park's fingers danced across holographic controls. Quantum technology packages have been delivered to 37 previously suppressed civilizations. The hegemony's containment fields are being systematically dismantled. Our educational AI systems are providing technical training to help these species adapt to their new capabilities. Blackwood nodded, studying the massive strategic display. Across the galaxy, points of light represented civilizations throwing off centuries of hegemony control. And the response from these worlds? Overwhelming support. Many of these species had developed theories about the technology we're providing, but hegemony restrictions prevented them from pursuing development. They're advancing decades within days. The true genius of humanity's plan was becoming clear. They hadn't just developed superior military technology, they had prepared to completely reshape the balance of power throughout known space. Back in the Hegemony Council chamber, the crisis deepened. Another report from the Centauri sector, an aide announced. The Deltani have already adapted human quantum drive technology to their ship designs. They're demanding immediate recognition as a Category 7 civilization. First speaker Nixus's crystalline form trembled. How? How did we not see this coming? On the Europa 7 Command Center's main screen, a transmission from Earth Command appeared. Director Julian Nash, head of the Terran Strategic Command, addressed the assembled fleet officers. Phase 3 is proceeding ahead of schedule, he announced. The hegemony's power structure is collapsing faster than projected. Their ability to maintain control through technological suppression is finished. Blackwood leaned forward. Any response to our terms? They're still debating, Nash's expression showed grim satisfaction. But with their client worlds gaining advanced technology by the hour, their position is untenable. The new Galactic Assembly proposal is gaining support, especially from the formerly suppressed worlds. The quantum displays showed the spreading ripples of change. Civilizations that had been classified as primitive were now demonstrating technological capabilities that matched or exceeded their former oppressors. Humanity's gift of knowledge was reshaping the very fabric of galactic society. Message from the Hegemony Council, Park announced suddenly. They're requesting to surrender. Unconditionally. A hush fell over the command center. 50 years of preparation, of hiding their true capabilities, of watching other species suffer under hegemony control, it was finally paying off. Put them through, Blackwood ordered. First speaker Nixus appeared on the main screen, her crystalline form dim with defeat. Captain Blackwood. Humanity has made its point. We are prepared to accept your terms for a new galactic order. All of them? Blackwood's voice was steel. Including the immediate release of all technological restrictions on developing worlds? Yes. The word seemed to cause Nixus physical pain. Though I must ask, why? Why give away your technological advantages to other species? Blackwood smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because we remember what it was like to be dismissed as primitive. To be judged as inferior by those who appointed themselves as guardians of civilization. Humanity decided long ago that when we finally revealed ourselves, we wouldn't just defeat the hegemony, we would ensure it could never rise again. The tactical displays showed more liberation fleets deploying across the galaxy. Humanity's phantom ships, no longer hiding their true nature, delivered the fruits of 50 years of secret development to dozens of worlds. The age of suppression was ending. A new era of galactic cooperation was beginning. And humanity, the species that had hidden its light for so long, would ensure that no civilization would ever again be judged too primitive to determine its own destiny. 1 year after Operation Shadow Forge, the new Galactic Assembly bore little resemblance to its predecessor. Gone were the ostentatious displays of power, the artificial hierarchies, the carefully maintained illusion of superiority. In their place stood a testament to genuine cooperation among species. The assembly chamber, constructed using human metamaterial architecture, shifted and flowed to accommodate the needs of all member species. Representatives from formerly suppressed civilizations sat as equals with their one-time oppressors. The change wasn't just symbolic, it was fundamental. Captain Raven Blackwood, now serving as Earth's primary representative, stood before the gathered delegates. The last year had transformed her from a military commander to a diplomat, though she still carried herself with a warrior's bearing. The first year of the free technology exchange has exceeded all projections, she announced, gesturing to the holographic data streams floating above the assembly. Over 300 formerly restricted species have successfully integrated quantum phase technology into their civilizations. The era of artificial technological barriers is over. From her position in the chamber, she could see former members of the Hegemony Council sitting alongside representatives from worlds they had once suppressed. Warmaster Kolak, now serving as a technical advisor, had replaced most of his cybernetic implants with human-designed quantum processors. Even First Speaker Nixus had adapted, her crystalline form now incorporating elements of shared technology from multiple species. The human philosophy of technological elevation has proven remarkably successful, observed Representative Tlara of the former Category 2 Proxima worlds. Our civilization advanced more in the past year than in the previous century under hegemony restrictions. Director Nash, attending virtually from Earth Command, nodded in agreement. Because advancement should be driven by innovation and cooperation, not arbitrary classifications and control. The phantom fleets that once hid humanity's true capabilities now serve as technology distribution networks, ensuring no civilization is left behind. The Assembly's quantum displays showed the transformation spreading across the galaxy. Former mining installations had become cultural exchange centers. The metamaterial technology that had once hidden humanity's war fleet now powered new forms of architecture and art. What had been built for war was being repurposed for peace and progress. There are still challenges, Blackwood acknowledged. Some former hegemony hardliners resist the new order. But their influence wanes as more species embrace cooperative development. The greatest victory hadn't been military, it had been philosophical. Humanity's decision to share rather than hoard their technological advantages had transformed former enemies into allies. The very weapons that had defeated the hegemony were now tools of elevation and enlightenment. Proposal from the Scientific Exchange Council, announced the Assembly's AI moderator. They're requesting approval for the first multi-species technology development hub. A place where all civilizations can contribute to and benefit from shared research. The vote was unanimous. Even former hegemony worlds had learned that cooperation yielded better results than suppression. The old fear that advancing, primitive, species would lead to chaos had been proven false. Humanity's greatest deception, First Speaker Nixus observed, her tone carrying a hint of admiration, wasn't hiding your technological advancement. It was hiding your intention to remake galactic society itself. Blackwood smiled. We had 50 years to plan not just for victory, but for what would come after. The phantom fleets were never meant to simply win a war, they were meant to ensure we'd never need to fight one again. The assembly chamber hummed with the energy of hundreds of species working together. Quantum computers processed information from 1,000 worlds. Metamaterial architecture shifted to facilitate new forms of interaction and understanding. In orbit above, the last of the Phantom Fleet vessels were being converted for their new mission. The stealth technology that had once hidden humanity's true power now carried knowledge and opportunity to the farthest reaches of known space. The old hegemony believed that advanced technology had to be controlled. Blackwood addressed the assembly one final time. They feared what would happen if primitive species gained access to powerful tools. But they forgot something fundamental about advancement. It's not the technology that matters most, but how you choose to use it. As the assembly concluded its session, representatives from hundreds of worlds mingled freely, sharing ideas and planning joint ventures. The rigid hierarchies of the past were gone, replaced by a genuine fellowship of species. Humanity had hidden in plain sight for 50 years, preparing not just to defeat an empire, but to transform a galaxy. The Phantom Fleets had won their victory not through conquest, but through the greatest power of all, the choice to share knowledge rather than hoard it, to elevate rather than suppress, to build rather than destroy. The age of deception was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And throughout the galaxy, civilizations that had once been deemed too primitive to join galactic society were reaching for the stars, not as subordinates, but as equals in the greatest adventure of all.